In this video, we'll see how to model both fascias and gutters along the edge of a roof. We'll show how to load a profile family and how to create a new fascia type using that profile. And we'll also see how to create a new gutter type by duplicating an existing gutter, and how to adjust the fascia depth and angle properties of a roof. I have the exercise file fascia and gutter open, and in here we can see the parapet roof that we'll be placing the fascia and gutter around. We need to create a new fascia type, but before we do that, we'll load in a profile family to use that in the fascia type. So to do this, first we'll go to the Insert Ribbon tab, and from the Load from Library panel, we'll choose the Load Autodesk Family button. This will open up a cloud-based content browser of Autodesk families. And we just need to check the locale settings first to ensure that the region is set to United States Imperial. Now that's done, we'll go to the Browse folders on the left-hand side here, and we'll scroll down and choose the Profiles folder. And then from the subfolders, we'll choose the Roofs folder. And now from the results for Profile Roofs, we'll choose the Fascia Built Up profile, and then click Load for this to be downloaded into our project. Now we're ready to create the new fascia, so from the Architecture ribbon tab on the Build panel, we'll click on the flyout under the Roof tools, and we'll choose the Roof Fascia tool. Looking at the type selector, we can see we have the Fascia Flat 1x12 type selected, and we'll click Edit Type to access its type properties, and then at the top here we'll click Duplicate to make the new fascia type. We'll name this Fascia Built Up 1x10, and then click OK to create that new fascia type. Looking at type parameters, in the construction panel here we have a parameter for profile. So we'll select this, and now from the drop down list, we may need to scroll up a little. We'll choose the Fascia Built Up 1x10 with 1x6. And now we'll assign a material. So just beneath this, you can see we have the material parameter. And we'll click on the by category material here. And then from the button that appears, we'll click on this to open up the material browser. And now we'll use the search box at the top to search for white materials. And now from the list of results, we'll choose the PVC clad white material, and now we'll click OK to assign that onto our new fascia type. And now that's done, we can click OK again to save the new fascia type that we've just created. So now we're still in the Place Fascia tool, so we're ready to add this onto the roof. So we'll zoom in a little here, and we just need to select the edge of the roof here. So at the bottom of the slope, at the top of the vertical fascia here, we'll click on, and then the fascia will be placed along that edge. And zooming in here, we can see the profile, and we can see it just sticking beneath the roof as we want it. So now we'll click the rest of the edges around the roof. So we click this one here, and we can see that creates a nice mitered joint in the corner. And now we can just continue on using the orbit tools, orbiting around the model and clicking on the edges until we've got them all selected, and now we can see that fascia is applied to all of the edges of the roof as we require it. So now we're ready to add the gutter on. So to do this, we'll go to the Architecture ribbon tab, and from the Build panel under the Roof tools again, we'll choose the flyout, and then we can select the Roof Gutter tool. So looking at the type selector, we can see we have this gutter bevel 5x5 type. We'll click Edit Type to open its type properties, and then we'll click Duplicate to create a new one, and we'll call this one Gutter Cove 5x5. And then we'll click OK to save this new gutter type. And now looking at the type parameters here, we can see we have the profile, so we'll click here, and then from the drop down list we'll choose the Gutter Profile Cove 5x5 type. And then we also need to assign a material. So we'll click on the by category here and open up the material browser with the button that appears. And then in the search box at the top here, we'll type in metal. Now from the list of results, we'll choose the copper material, And then coming across to the graphics tab here, we'll check the box to use render appearance in the shading panel. We can see that changes the color to be more like a copper color now instead of the black. So we'll click OK to assign that onto our gutter, then OK once more to save our new gutter type. So now we're ready to place the gutter in. So we'll zoom in close because we need to make sure we pick the top front edge of the fascia for the gutter to follow along. And now we can see that gutter applied along the edge of that fascia there. So we can continue to click the same edge, and then as we go we can see it creating the mitered corner. So we get that gutter flowing around the edge of the building, attached to the edge of the fascia. So that completes placing the gutter, and we can see that profile now being used along the top of the fascia as we wanted it. So now looking at the smaller roof at the top of the building here, we need to place a fascia along these edges too. So we'll go back to the Architecture ribbon tab, and from the Build panel under the Roof Tools, we'll choose the Roof Fascia tool again. From the Type selector, we have our fascia built up 1x10. Let's change this to be the fascia flat 1x6. Now zooming in a little, we can click on the top edge of the roof to place that fascia along. And then we can do the same on the opposite side. However, we can see that the roof sticks down beneath the fascia, and it would be good to be able to control this. So let's go to the project browser and we'll open up this south elevation view. And zooming in, we can see the roof at the top of the building here. We can see the fascia here at the edge and the roof sticking down beneath that. So with the roof selected, if we look at the properties panel here, on the construction panel we have a parameter for rafter cut, and it's currently set to be plumb cut, which means it just cuts vertically down through the thickness of the roof. If we go back and we change this to be 2 cut plumb, we can then see that beneath this we have the fascia depth parameter that we can edit. So we'll set this to be 6 inches. And now once we apply this, we can see the roof fascia is cut back, so it comes 6 inches down from the edge of the roof here and then cuts back horizontally. You can see it's still a little bit too deep, so let's change this to 5 inches. And now we can see that fascia just sticking beneath the actual thickness of the roof there. And that's the same now on the other side, as it's one roof both sides. Going back to the properties palette here, we'll change the rafter cut to be 2 cut square. And we can see now that the edge of the roof, the fascia of the roof there, now returns at a right angle to the slope of the roof. And it keeps that 5-inch depth before it cuts off horizontally. So this is how we want the edge of the roof to be. Although looking at the fascia now, we can see that that's still vertical. So if I select the fascia and we go to the properties palette here, you see we have an angle parameter for the profile. And looking at the spot slope annotation on the roof here, we can see that we have an angle of 26.57 degrees. So we can enter that angle in, although we need to enter it as a negative, so negative 26.57. And then when we apply that, we can see the fascia rotate round to match the angle of the roof now. We'll go back to the 3D view. And there is an alternative way of adjusting that angle. So I'll select the fascia and we'll set that angle back to 0 first. And we can see it now sticking down from the roof. And now with it selected, we'll go up to the Modify Fascias ribbon tool here and we'll click on the Add Remove Segments. And now if we remove the segment that we've already got created by clicking on that edge of the roof, and then clicking immediately on the same edge to reapply it, we can see that it gets applied at the correct angle now. So we'll do this on the other side of the roof to remove that off and then reapply it. And again we can see both fascias here are at the correct angle for the roof. And zooming out now, we can see we've got the fascias and gutters completed around all of the roofs.